Hello and welcome to The Last Word. Is Narendra Modi's definition of secularism as India first acceptable or expedient? That's the big discussion tonight with the chairman of the Minorities Commission, Wajahat Habibullah, a member of the Gujarat BJP, Devang Nanavati, a member of the JDU and cultural advisor to Nitish Kumar, Pavan Verma, and the co-convener of NCPRI, Nikhil Dey. Gentlemen, let's start with Narendra Modi's definition of secularism. Nikhil Dey, he says, and I'm quoting, "My definition of secularism is simple: India first. Whatever you do, wherever you work, India should be the top priority for all its citizens." And then he adds, "Nothing less than India's well-being should be our goal, and if this happens, secularism will automatically run in our blood." Now, is that an acceptable definition, or does it not work for you?
It certainly doesn't work for me, primarily because who it comes from. It's amazing that a person who has undermined the very concept of India, a person who did not accept the plurality of his own state, a person who was sitting as chief minister of a state which undermined for the first time in this country. There have been riots before, but never in the history of this country has a community felt completely bereft and left alone and allowed to be attacked. So much so that his own party person said his Raj Dharma was not being used. How can he say, and is that his idea of India? And if that's his idea of India, that small majorities will be cynically used for political purposes, it is undermining the very concept of India, it's undermining its plurality, its constitutionality, and everything it stands for. And therefore, the fact that it's come from someone like him actually says that he is willing to say anything to say that's my definition.
Just a quick thing.
That'll go.
Would this definition in someone else's mouth amount to secularism, or is it per se as a definition insufficient?
Who is to say what is India? He is clearly saying what I say is India. Who is he to say what is India? India depends on all of us together, and him by saying India first, and he thinks he's put India first, he has undermined India like no one has in the history of India.
Pavan Verma, if I understand Narendra Modi correctly, India first sounds more like a definition of nationalism than secularism. And Narendra Modi makes it clear that in his eyes, nationalism is more important than secularism when he says, and again I quote, "The country is above all religions and ideologies." Would you agree with that interpretation, that this seems to be nationalism rather than secularism that he's defining?
I think, Karan, this is an important discussion, and I don't want to make it individual-centric. We have a definition of secularism, and essentially I think this needs discussion, but I have three problems with the concept as it has been enunciated today. Firstly, I think somewhere by saying India first, you are in a sense positing a polarity between what constitutes India first and secularism, which I don't believe needs to be made. I believe it is subsumed by the fact of the primacy of national interest.
Okay.
So I think there is a disturbing polarity here. Secondly, it leaves open the question that if India is first, who defines national interest and its primacy? So in a sense, it leaves open the question that secularism can be an accessory to India first, and then someone else defines what constitutes India first, or the primacy of national interest. Thirdly, I think there is another statement which needs us to ponder very carefully, because somewhere in his statement on his speech he said that governance is a primary issue, and if that is ensured, then other mistakes can be forgotten or ignored.
Can I stop you? Now, I'll come to this third thing in a moment's time after the break. Let's leave that as a separate issue. Concentrate for now on your main point about whether his definition of secularism works for you or not.
So I believe that secularism defines India, not as some kind of fundamental credo, but as Jawaharlal Nehru wrote in his first letter to chief ministers. He said coexistence is not an option, but a compulsion for India.
Okay.
So it's a defining aspect of our fabric, and to create these polarities, A, between national interest and secularism, and then B, leave open the question that depending on how you define national interest, secularism can be a subordinate or
Okay.
even irrelevant accessory of it. I think this is dangerous ground. So beyond individuals, we need to focus on the concept.
I'm going to, of course, come right back to individuals because this discussion is focused around Narendra Modi's statement. Wajahat Habibullah, Modi also seems to suggest that true nationalism automatically leads to secularism when he says, if this happens, secularism will automatically run in our blood. But can you subsume secularism under nationalism, which is, of course, the question that Pavan Verma asked a moment ago? Because after all, it's perfectly possible to be a nationalist without being secular. It all turns upon what sort of way you define your nation. For instance, Guru Golwalkar, as the RSS referred to him, had a definition of nationalism that excluded India's minorities and Muslims in particular. Yet he considered himself a perfect nationalist.
The whole question really hinges around what is India? Is India a piece of land? Is India a particular faith, a religion, a particular ethnic community? It is all these. The beauty of India, if you want to define India, is its diversity. In its diversity exists India. Without its diversity, I'm sorry, India is not India. And therefore, I think that one must understand then that, okay, India first as a definition of standing alone, but then what is India? India is a conglomerate of all its components. All these components taken together, like as Mrs. Gandhi used to call it, a garden with many, many flowers. Without any particular bed or without any particular tree or without any particular blossom, it is not really India. And that is what makes us unique.
Okay.
We are a unique country in the extent of our diversity, in the depth of our nationalism, in the depth of what constitutes this whole concept of what is India. And it's not
Okay.
surprising that the very name India is not an Indian name.
Absolutely.
It's a name that is a
No,
European
but let's stop there. Let's stop there. Let's not go into where the name India comes from or what its origins are. I think your point is an essentially good point, and I want to put that to Devang Mehta. Devang Mehta, there are two fundamental problems with Narendra Modi's definition of secularism as India first. The first problem is that he seems to be denying the plurality that lies at the very heart and defines the character of our country. And the second problem, as Pavan Verma and Nikhil Dey pointed out, is he's begging the question, what defines India? And is he, in a sense, somehow positing a polarity, as Pavan Verma asks, between India and secularism?
Well, first of all, Karan, I am Devang Nanavati and not Devang Mehta.
Oh, my
So
apologies. I do apologize for that.
The matter of record. That's all right. That is all right. Secondly, you know, as far as Mr. Modi's statement is concerned, I think please don't try to read more than what it is really meant to be. Mr. Modi was referring that secularism will of course be there, but what we must consider is India first, because he was referring to that in this country, unfortunately, vote bank politics has been played in the name where secularism is destroyed and India therefore doesn't come first. It is in that context that he was probably referring to India first. So let's look at it from that perspective. That's the first point. Second thing, you made a statement while referring to Mr. Wajahat Habibullah that Guru Golwalkar's definition was of nationalism excluded the minorities. I am sorry, that is not the correct statement, because I also belong to the RSS. I must clarify this on your show, that the RSS never excludes the minorities.
Can I interrupt you? I want to quote from Guru Golwalkar's. No, you're actually saying that I'm wrong, and I'm going to quote from Guru Golwalkar's book, We Are Nation Defined. And he makes it very clear that non-Hindu people of Hindustan, unless they accept Hindu culture and language, unless they accept Hindu culture and language, which means that Muslims have to accept, Christians have to accept, that means he denies their plurality.
That's the problem, Karan. Karan, that's the problem. Please listen to me. Have the patience to listen to me for 2 minutes. You cut short Wajahat on the point when he was trying to make it, and Pavan Verma knows this better than anybody else because he's written excellent books on this. Hindu culture includes Muslims, includes Christians, every other religion.
No, forgive me, I'm going to stop you there. That's a tendentious point you're making, and one that maybe Hindus might accept in a minority, but Muslims and Christians do not. Muslims and Christians, hang on a second, you made your point, but I'm not going to get locked into a debate about what is Hindu culture. I'm sorry, I'm not getting locked into a debate about what is Hindu culture, because this is a definition that denies Muslims and Christians the right to see their culture differently.
Let me finish my other point.
Very quickly, because I don't want to get stuck on this.
the same time as the others have got. That is very clear. And I will assert that right on your show very requestfully to you, very humbly to you. And secondly, the Article 1 of the Constitution starts that what is India? It says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. It means everything that has happened, the unending stream of civilization that has flowed in this land for the
Mr.
past
Nanavati,
7,000
Mr.
years.
Nanavati, you've made your point. You've made your point. I'm now moving on. I'll come back to you in a moment's time. You've made your point. Let me try and put the flip argument to you, Nikhil Dey. When Modi says, and again I'm quoting him, nothing less than India's well-being should be our goal, can you not then assume that that well-being requires a secular outlook and policy, and therefore inherent in saying India first is a necessary secular outlook? Otherwise, any other outlook would threaten India's well-being. Can you not make that assumption?
Absolutely. I think that India survives because it is secular. India has so much plurality, so much diversity, and what distinguishes...
But then hang on a moment. Then you're agreeing with Modi, aren't you? Because if India's well-being is primary, that assumes secularism has to be the policy.
I am saying that secularism has to be the policy for India's well-being, but Modi's definition of well-being is clearly not the one that we agree with. His definition of secularism is clearly not what we agree with, because he is assuming that he is India.
You're going by his track record rather than anything he said.
No, because he is saying that I have secularism flowing in my blood, so naturally the track record. How do you judge someone? You judge someone by their track record, and you judge someone by how they have functioned in the past, and how what they want. What defines India as separate from Pakistan or from Bangladesh is our secular constitution.
Let me put it like this, Pavan Verma. Nitish Kumar, your party leader, and you are now, in fact, a JDU spokesperson in addition to being cultural advisor to Mr. Nitish Kumar, in his famous interview to the Economic Times said that the Prime Minister of India has to be secular. Would Nitish Kumar accept Modi as secular on the grounds that Modi puts India first? In other words, is that sufficient to define secularism for Nitish?
I think, Karan, let me be clear. It is not the intention of Mr. Nitish Kumar to question anybody's claim to be secular. He is arguing what should be the attributes of secularism. Please try and understand. And a secular leader is one who carries with him all the communities, because in so doing he puts Indian national interest first. India first becomes first when it has an inclusive character to it. And when you posit secularism as either a separate or subordinate or an accessory aspect of national interest, then you are opening a Pandora's box on definitions of what constitutes national interest, who defines it, and therefore there is a slippery ground here, very slippery, which needs to be debated and discussed. Because if you will allow me 20 seconds, Karan, allow me 20 seconds. I'd like to read 4 lines from Atal Bihari Vajpayee in one of his poems which I have translated, which perhaps gives you another notion of what constitutes national interest and secularism. Would you allow me that?
Absolutely, go ahead quickly.
The lines are, किंतु इतने ऊंचे भी नहीं कि पांव तले दूब भी न जमे, कोई कांटा न चुभे, कोई कली न खिले, न वसंत हो न पतझड़, हो सिर्फ ऊंचाई का अंधड़, मात्र अकेलेपन का सन्नाटा। मेरे प्रभु मुझे इतनी ऊंचाई कभी मत देना, गैरों को गले न लगा सकूं, इतनी रुखाई कभी मत देना. And the quick English translation for your viewers, very quick, is, yet not so tall that tender grass does not grow, no thorn stares the skin, no flowers bloom, no spring, no autumn, only the storms of great heights and the numbing stillness of solitude. My Lord, never place me so high that I cannot embrace those who are not my own. This is also a definition of secularism.
Mujahid Habibullah, one test of secularism that is widely accepted the world over would be if the country's minorities view the person as secular. Now, to take Mahatma Gandhi as a first example, he was deeply religious, he was avowedly Hindu, yet everyone automatically and unquestioningly accepted his secularism. Would you, as a Muslim, accept Narendra Modi on his track record as secular?
Well, I wouldn't really like to reduce this to then discussing individual personalities. But what I would like to say that any Indian who is of the soil of India, and with this I would even disagree with a quote from Pavan Verma, when you're embracing others, in India there are no others. We are all Indians. And we all spring from the soil of India. We may be Muslim, we may be Christian, we may be Buddhist, and therefore, I mean, the Taj Mahal is an Indian monument. We are all proud of the Taj Mahal.
Okay.
It was built by a Muslim emperor for an Irani wife. We are all proud of Khajuraho. We are all proud of the Dharam Chakra, which is our national symbol. We are all proud of the Singha Stamb, the symbol of Ashok, the great Buddhist ruler of India. So, I mean, all of these constitute what is India, and I would cleave to that point. There is no question of ghairo ko gale lagana. There is not a question of ghair. There is nobody who is ghair. And I would also object to these.
Let me clarify, Karan.
I don't want to get into a debate about how to understand Atal Bihari Vajpayee's point. I don't want to get into that.
Everyone in your
I don't want to get into a debate about how we discuss Atal Bihari Vajpayee's point. That's irrelevant to our discussion. I want to come back to Mr. Nanavati. Mr. Nanavati, at the end of the day, for many people in India who are fellow citizens alongside Mr. Modi of the same country, it's not really definitions of secularism that are a problem, but Mr. Modi's own image and behavior. In 2003, the Supreme Court said that they had lost faith in the Gujarat government. In 2004, the Supreme Court called him a modern-day Nehru who looks the other way as innocent women and helpless children are burnt. In 2004, yet again, the Supreme Court transferred 2,108 cases out of 4,256 out of Gujarat. And even till today, leave aside, apologize for 2002, he hasn't even expressed regret. Can such a man be secular, regardless of how cleverly or artfully you define that term? Can he be secular, full stop?
Well, Karan, the question is that we have a different view. We agree that at least we believe that he is secular. Whether it's for someone to believe or not, it's their view. Fine. But on the Supreme Court, that very Supreme Court appointed an SIT. That very SIT has now given a report which is under consideration by the magistrate, that there is no role played by Mr. Modi directly or indirectly in the failing of the riots that happened.
And it's being questioned by Mrs. Jaffrey. Zakia Jaffrey is questioning it. And you know that too.
That's what I said. I don't think, no. And Karan, I didn't think you listened to my second part of the statement, which is pending before the magistrate I use. If you're going to interrupt me in every sentence, you finish it first. Okay, I will agree to everything you say, then don't look for my answer. This is not the correct way of dealing it. You will have to give me my time whether it's the answer you are looking for or not. Let's be very clear on that, Karan. I respect you, but please don't do this. Because you hear my full statement. I very specifically said the SIT has given a clean chit and that report is pending before the magistrate for its consideration. So where is the question that I have not said that Mr. Jaffrey is not questioning it?
Right.
Of course he is questioning it. Anyways, coming back to it, let's not get sidelined into pediatrics here. You know, the main point is that the Supreme Court has said something in one order and has said the final order says that there is nothing on record that we find. It will go back to the judicial process, and it has gone back to the judicial process. As of today, there is not a single FIR or any charge framed against Mr. Modi for his role. I can now go on giving you lots of statistics. I don't want to get into it. What actions were taken? The question is that this were unfortunately the first televised riots covered extensively by media, and therefore we have this reaction to it. Otherwise,
it's because it is covered by media that we are so aware and the reactions are so profound and they raise questions about Mr. Modi. Don't explain them away on those grounds. That's the reason why we're concerned about Mr. Modi.
No. Karan, if any of the riots are televised or covered extensively by the media, you will get these reactions. Why don't we question Mr. Rajiv Gandhi on his statement that he made during the Sikh riots?
All right, you've made your point, Mr. Nanavati. Let's not get into a dispute between you and me over this issue. And it's not the nature of the riots or the way that they were covered by television that actually rise to the heart of our discussion. I want to move on. I have very limited time. I don't want to get stuck on this point. You've made your point. You've clarified your opposition. position. You've even countered as you think the points I made about the Supreme Court, which you have a right to do. Let's now move on. Nikhil Dey, I want to come very quickly to a second element that was a part of Narendra Modi's speech, which Pavan Verma picked up on, but I stopped him when he first did so. And that is the question of seeking forgiveness on the basis of the work you've done thereafter. I'm going to quote him again. He says, when we get a mandate of 5 years, we must work on that and serve people selflessly. If we do that, then people will forgive our mistakes as well. And he adds, the voters of India are large-hearted. When there is development, they forgive mistakes. Is this a thinly disguised plea for forgiveness for 2002? Or am I overinterpreting it? A quick answer.
I don't know what it is, but governance and development is, you cannot divide it from how every single citizen is treated. And the past track record has fundamentally undermined the notion and concept of India, and you will not have people across the country forgetting what has taken place in the past.
No, we're not talking about forgetting, we're talking about forgiving. Let me bring in Pavan Verma because we're running short of time.
It was a cynical...
I'm bringing in Pavan Verma, forgive me, I'm running really short of time. Pavan Verma, would the good work that Modi is alleged to have done, and I'm phrasing myself deliberately, carefully, because many people question that record, forgive and wipe out the blemishes of 2002, or are the two separate and can one not wipe out the other? A quick answer.
A quick answer is the following. Current governance as interpreted as administrative success and delivery cannot but include secularism. The moment you make the two a polarity, that if you provide governance in administrative and delivery terms, you can afford not to be secular, or perhaps if you are not, such a mistake can be condoned or forgiven. Now, as a concept, we need to very seriously discuss it.
Okay.
Very seriously. Because governance includes an inclusive and secular approach for a country like India.
Very quickly, Wajad Habibullah, again you have to answer me literally in about 30 seconds. Would you agree with the point that Pavan Verma has made, that in a country like India, governance includes intrinsically secularism, and you can't say that somehow good governance will atone or condone for the fact that you're not secular in your outlook? A quick answer.
I would agree with Pavan. Governance means inclusive governance, and particularly a democracy, which India is, and a leading democracy, are all sections of the people benefiting from that government, or that governance, or has a section of that people actually suffered in consequence of that governance.
That's a very good question you raised. Forgive me, I'm cutting you off. We're running perilously out of time. I apologize for cutting off. I'm going to come back for the last word to Devang Nanavati and put it like this. If the BJP under Narendra Modi's leadership in 2014, Mr. Nanavati, were to win 180 seats and more, would that result ensure that the question marks being raised today disappear? In other words, what I'm asking is a cynical question, but perhaps it's a very real question. Does proximity to power at the end of the day define what is secular rather than academic definitions of that concept? But a quick answer.
Well, very quickly, first of all, I need to be an astrologer to predict what seats BJP is going to get, or any other political party, which I am not. But we are very hopeful that we will overrun this UPA government and come to power on our own with the help of our allies. But the question is that at the end of the day, the people of India decide what the definition of India is, what the definition of secularism is, and the way they decide it is through the voting process. In Gujarat, you have seen it. You will see it in India, across pan-India in 2014.
All right, I'm going to take that as actually confirmation of the thought that underlay my question. The people of India, from the way they vote, will determine what is secular, what is not. And that suggests that if the BJP under Modi gets 180 seats and more, he will be defined as secular regardless of what academics, journalists, critics and skeptics might have to say. That's a cynical note in which to end, but maybe it's also a realistic note. And of course, time alone will tell whether that actually comes to be. My apologies to Mr. Nanavati for having got his name wrong. That was a terrible faux pas on my part. Forgive me. Devang Mehta, as you know, was a very famous Devang in Gujarat, sadly taken from us early by cancer. And also my apologies for quarreling.
But that's the only problem. I don't want to be late.
And my apologies also for quarreling. My thanks to Pavan Verma, Nikhil Dey, Wajad Habibullah, and of course Devang Nanavati for joining us. Goodbye. Good night.